the explainer teaching morals through the Islamic story method. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving right into a really fascinating intersection of ancient tradition and modern teaching. We're going to break down exactly how centuries-old moral teachings are being completely transformed into these incredibly captivating, kid-friendly stories, all while using some pretty rigorous academic frameworks.
Okay, let's dive into this. When you think about traditional religious education, your mind probably jumps straight to, heavy, dusty books and super quiet classrooms. But instead, look at this. We've got sparkly pink dinosaurs and these huge playful fonts. I mean, who knew ancient wisdom came with a T-Rex, right? This is the 40 Ahadith for Kids curriculum, taught by Sheikh Bilal Ismail at the Al-Kawthar Institute. It's vibrant, it's totally unexpected, and it instantly signals to a child that learning morals isn't a chore. It's actually going to be incredibly fun.
And you know that engagement goes way beyond just the visual branding. Instead of dryly reciting a text about unity or the consequences of doing harm, this curriculum uses these highly dramatic, super playful story titles. For instance, Hadith 1 is titled, "Don't Let the Wolf Eat You," which teaches the concept that a lamb that abandons its herd gets eaten. Or Hadith 10, called "The Thief Poisons Himself," illustrating that whoever harms others will eventually be harmed themselves. By framing these really profound moral lessons as high-stakes, exciting narratives, a child's attention is just instantly captured. You're no longer just reciting rules to them. You're telling a thrilling story.
Now, what's really interesting about this framework is the hidden architecture beneath those fun titles. The curriculum doesn't just tell a story and, well, leave it at that. It actually demands interactive engagement from both the parent and the child. Every single story is broken down into 3 specific steps. First, there's a parent/kid exercise question to test their basic comprehension of the narrative. Second, a discussion point to draw out that deeper moral meaning. And third, a real-world activity so they can practice that moral literally immediately. It's a highly structured framework, cleverly disguised as playtime.
Let's see how this actually works in practice, because honestly, it is just brilliant. Take Hadith 4. The Muslim is the mirror of another Muslim. Notice how the story pivots to this amazing kid-level question. Why do you think nobody told the king that his hat was dirty? The discussion point then connects this abstract concept directly to the child's actual life. It explains that when your mom or dad tells you to do something right, even if you really don't like it, they're doing it for your own good. They're being a mirror for you. It takes this high-level philosophical concept and perfectly grounds it in the everyday reality of a kid being corrected by their parents.
So, we can easily see that this is engaging, but you might be wondering, does it actually work from an educational standpoint? To answer that, we're transitioning from the colorful examples of the Al-Kawthar curriculum into a rigorous academic deep dive. We're looking at a 2020 qualitative research study by Muhammad Sheikhan, published in the Ellen Schroed Journal of Islamic Studies. This was field research analyzing the implementation of the Islamic story method in instilling religious morals in early childhood, specifically at a school in Gresik, Indonesia. This is where we get to see the actual science behind the story.
The 5 pillars of the Islamic story method implementation: preparation, material, method, media, and evaluation. Let's move to and see how this builds to make the stories actually work in a classroom.
Let's drill down into a few of these pillars, starting with material. Now, in this academic context, material doesn't just mean the storybook itself. The research found that effective implementation requires grounding these fun stories in serious curriculum development. Specifically, teachers developed what they call RPPM, which are weekly learning implementation plans, and RPPH, which are the daily plans. These are derived straight from official curriculum standards, and they ensure that every single story told purposefully covers core elements of creed, sharia, and morals. So yes, every dinosaur and wolf story actually has a carefully mapped out academic purpose.
The study also looked really closely at the media pillar, and the findings here are quite revealing. When evaluating how teachers actually presented these stories, researchers found a heavy preference for dynamic audio and visual media. Conversely, traditional tools like simple storybooks and slates were rarely used. This completely backs up what the vibrant 40 Ahadith curriculum suggests. Basically, to keep early childhood learners hooked on moral lessons, educators absolutely need to utilize highly stimulating auditory and visual methods rather than just relying on static text.
Right, so how exactly do you test a preschooler on their morals? You literally can't just sit them down and hand them a written exam. The 5th pillar of the research, evaluation, outlines exactly how educators measure success here. They use 3 primary methods. First, the question and answer method to gauge immediate comprehension of the story. Second, direct observation of the child's actual behavior. And third, holding dialogues with student guardians. So the evaluation of moral learning isn't a test. It's continuous, it's observational, and it relies heavily on a real partnership between the school and the parents.
And this brilliantly illustrates how it all clicks together. The practical framework from the 40 Ahadith curriculum maps perfectly right onto these rigorous academic evaluation methods. Look at this. The parent/kid exercise question is exactly the question and answer method. The discussion point naturally facilitates the dialogue with guardians, and the real-world activity provides the absolute perfect opportunity for direct observation. It just proves that theory perfectly matches practice here.
What's so powerful about this synthesis of fun and science is that it isn't just locked away in some dusty academic journal or isolated to a single classroom in Indonesia. Institutions like Al-Qatar are actively teaching this very curriculum online. That means this highly structured, academically validated method of using stories to teach morals is accessible to parents and educators literally anywhere in the world who want to use it in their own homes.
But hey, let's do a quick reality check here. The research study explicitly identifies the supporting factors required to make this method actually work. It's not magic. It requires a really solid foundation. Success depends heavily on dedicated teachers who are willing to put in the prep time, a supportive environment that reinforces the lessons, and a consistently engaging learning process. I mean, if the storyteller lacks enthusiasm, or if the environment contradicts the moral being taught, the whole story method just loses its effectiveness.
So, the crucial point is that despite how incredibly effective the story method is, educators and parents face very real constraints. The study highlights some significant barriers to implementation. We're talking about inadequate time to prepare and deliver these interactive elements, real struggles with class or child management when activities get a little too exciting, and sometimes simply lacking the right tools or media to bring the stories to life visually and audibly. Recognizing these real-world barriers is definitely the first step to overcoming them.
We've seen how vibrant storytelling, when it's backed by structured academic pillars like observation and guardian dialogue, can completely transform moral education from a dry lecture into an exciting journey. So, I want to leave you with this thought today. Reflecting on your own childhood, or maybe your current parenting or mentoring style, how could you use this story method? How could you take a simple everyday rule and wrap it up in an engaging narrative to create a lifelong moral lesson? The tools are right here. The next story is yours to tell. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.